Dear friends, welcome to another episode in the fantastic world of the military. In this video, I will address a question that often arises here on the channel. If the United States were to truly abandon Ukraine and Putin were to win, what would happen to the world? And if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, subscribe now and activate the notification bell so you don't miss any updates. On this Monday, April 8th, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky issued another grave warning, stating once again that if the United States Congress does not unlock the $61 billion package of financial aid, weapons, and ammunition for Ukraine, his country will inevitably lose the war. This package was supposed to be released in November 2023. However, due to strong pressure exerted by former President Trump, known for being a great admirer of Vladimir Putin, and as a Republican presidential candidate, he wields significant influence over the Congress controlled by his party. This led Mike Johnson, leader of the Republican majority in Congress, to refuse to put the package to a vote, a measure that has been blocking this vital military aid to Ukraine for months. With this blockade by the United States, European countries such as France, Germany, and the United Kingdom are rushing to increase military aid, but the combined values amount to less than 10% of the $61 billion US package, showing how important US support is for Ukraine's defensive effort. If the package is not approved by Congress, Ukraine, in President Zelensky's words, will be at real risk of defeat. In this scenario of US abandonment and Putin's victory, what might actually happen to the world? The first effect will be the realization worldwide that the United States is not a reliable ally, primarily impacting European and Asian countries such as Japan, South Korea, Taiwan, and the Philippines. In Europe, the effect would be the acceleration of a process already underway, which is the expansion of the European defense industry through the opening of new factories and production lines, mainly for artillery ammunition. Europe, aware that the United States is not a reliable ally, will accelerate its rearmament process, which will also involve expanding its armed forces, a measure that countries like Poland, Germany, and the United Kingdom have already begun. Another likely result will be the creation of a sort of European army that would act as a complement to NATO. Even if Trump wins the elections, he cannot simply withdraw the United States from the alliance, as it is a process that requires debates and approvals in Congress and the Senate. But he can drastically reduce US participation in exercises and military deployments in Europe. Therefore, to compensate for the reduction in US presence, Europe may create its own military organization that will operate based on a new defense reality, with more European industries and military personnel available. In Asia, Japan, which has been expanding and reinforcing its defense sector for some years, will probably accelerate this process even further through increased recruitment and production of offensive weapons, a type of weapon that Japan has not produced since the end of World War II, including ballistic and cruise missiles. South Korea, in turn, will face considerable pressure from North Korea, as dictator Kim Jong-un, a nuclear weapons holder, will increasingly test South Korea's patience with provocative movements and actions, knowing in advance that South Korea cannot retaliate for fear of being attacked with nuclear weapons, a situation that could ultimately force South Koreans to develop their own nuclear weapons to stand on equal footing with the North, plunging Asia into a nuclear arms race. China will also take advantage of this to attack and invade Taiwan. China's logic would be, if the United States has abandoned a sovereign nation recognized internationally, such as Ukraine, why would they get involved in a war over an island whose independence is not even recognized by the UN? In addition to Taiwan, China will complete its process of militarization and control of the South China Sea, directly affecting countries like the Philippines and Vietnam, which would lose their exclusive economic zones to the Chinese. In the case of Russia, Vladimir Putin, victorious in Ukraine, will advance on other countries in the region, focusing his attention first on non-NATO member countries such as Armenia, Moldova, and Georgia. In Armenia, the Kremlin's propaganda machine has been accusing Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan of being a traitor for moving closer to the West, an approach that, according to the Armenian Prime Minister, was motivated by Russia's abandonment during the war. His country fought against Azerbaijan in Nagorno-Karabakh. Georgia, invaded by Russia in 2008, would be seen as a natural annexation, as it would bring the Russian border closer to Turkey and Armenia. In the case of Moldova, whose Transnistria region has been occupied by Russia since the 1990s, It would be seen as a natural extension of Russia's new domains in Ukraine, and a way for Russia to get even closer to NATO, giving Putin more options to pressure Europe. The Middle East would also suffer from this, with Iran seeing the lack of commitment from the United States to help its allies, feeling more comfortable to increase its attacks against Israel. Israel, in turn, fearing the growth of its natural enemies in the face of US abandonment, feeling compelled to respond more aggressively to these attacks, a scenario that could easily lead to a large-scale war encompassing the entire region. Even South America could be affected. As everyone knows, Venezuelan dictator Nicolás Maduro wants to invade Guyana to annex 70% of its territory, an invasion that only does not occur immediately because he fears US support for Guyana's defense. However, if Ukraine is abandoned by Washington, Maduro will see this as a sign of weakness and lack of determination in US support for allies, prompting him to invade his neighbor, plunging South America into war. As we can see, the defeat of Ukraine, if caused directly by US abandonment, will pave the way for a world even more dangerous than the one we live in today. A world in which dictators and tyrants, motivated by the lack of support and joint international action against their atrocities, will feel free to advance with their expansionist and conquering wars, further increasing the frequency and intensity of the wars that plague our world. And if you are not yet subscribed to the channel, subscribe and activate the notification bell to not miss any news, criticisms, ideas, or suggestions. You can leave them in the comments.